Yeah. All right, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We're going to call the special board meeting of the Indian Wells Valley Water District to order at 6 p.m. Vice President Boyd, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
That'd be my honor. Please, everybody stand. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Roll call, please.
President St. Amand,
Here?
Director Griffin,
Here.
Director Ritora,
Here.
Vice President Boyd.
Here.
Posting of agenda declaration.
The agenda for tonight's special board meeting was posted on Friday, October 7th, 2022.
Thank you. Conflict of interest. Vice President Boyd.
None.
Director Ritora.
None.
Director Griffin.
None.
And President St. Amand states none as well, but he must inform you that he is an employee of the federal government. However, that being said, any opinions he might express tonight, I might express tonight, do not necessarily reflect those of my employer, or for that matter, the rest of the board of directors. All right, thank you. Public and questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentations to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time the item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you're recognized by the chairperson, please state your name and address, or at least city of Ridgecrest. Do we have any public questions or comments?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Neal. I have two things I want to bring to your attention. One is that I've been thinking about the upcoming decision on the water rate structure. And so that's a good idea, bears repeating. I'm going to repeat this again for your consideration for those of you who are on the committee apparently still working on it. And that is that, anyway, just raise the volume. A more linear rate charge be instituted with, and I don't know, if I seriously doubt the board or the committee members either will go for just a flat linear rate charge, just would equal if you use no water, you pay nothing kind of deal. And it's like pumping gas out of the gas station pump. But I think the sentiment, at least on some person's parts on the board, is that we need a lot lower fixed rate structure, a lot lower fixed rate amount. And as I said before, that would encourage the lower water users in the valley, who I believe I've heard stated in years past that they actually compromise 70+% of the water users in the district. It would encourage them to actually try to conserve a little bit. As it is, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, they get charged a little for water compared to the fixed rates that they have no incentive to do so. And as you know, with the GA and everything going on, that's something we need to do, is we need to reduce water use. Okay. The other thing I'd like to reiterate is, and this doesn't directly relate to the adjudication, but it's an alternative to the adjudication suit. And that is that the water district, in my opinion, needs to become a joint agency as water district and GA board. And that's readily done through use of initiative. It can be written, it can be put in place. A basin-wide special district can be created so that everyone in the basin gets to vote for the board that will govern their water use and what they get charged for it and how everything is dealt with, instead of being the only agency that funds the GA and then in some senses having to fight with the agency you're funding. You could just be that agency and give the people in this valley an elected GA board that, they could at least feel they have some voice in. Everyone that I talk to, and I bring this up, it's like, what's the point? All these guys that are appointed can't do anything about what they're doing, and most people feel that, other than Stan, who's shown clearly that he does care, they don't think the rest of them really care. That, I believe, is actually possible to create an initiative that could be put forward for the signatures and then the institution and the vote. The district could help draft that, and it wouldn't be falling on to citizens who have limited resources, limited knowledge to do that. So then that particular problem could be well on the road to being solved. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So the district originally went away from a flat fee because the ratepayers were saving so much water that the money that was being collected to cover the water sales was not sufficient to keep the district afloat. So they had to come up with a fixed rate and a variable rate for the water usage. That's very similar to many other water districts in the state, including Department of Water and Power's setup. Second is interesting. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, sir.
Hi, Mike Sonat. I wanted to come in today just essentially to thank you guys, everybody on the board, staff at the Water District, Don, Jim. This has been a rough year for the people in this valley, and a lot of the vitriol and the egregious accusations by the city of Ridgecrest have occurred. I've been watching repeatedly the discussion at the candidates forum a week and a half ago, and specifically interested in the water issue. Four of the candidates indicated that, or five of the candidates indicated that the water issue was the most important issue. The mayor didn't want to address the issue and disagreed that was the most important issue, and that he repeated that he doesn't know.
Mr. Sonata, I'm going to just caution you, this has to be within the jurisdiction of the board, and the city council election doesn't, so.
Okay, well,
we can't go political, I just want to
okay, then the
caution
good question is, then, can the board endorse candidates for the mayor?
No.
No, we couldn't vote together? Okay.
We're not political. We
Okay.
cannot participate in politics in any manner.
Okay, well,
That's why I'm
darn
cautioning
it.
you on your words. That's why I'm cautioning you on your words.
Okay, I appreciate that. I
Very
should
good,
ask.
thank
you.
I don't usually pay attention to rules.
We can't even run based on party.
Yeah, okay.
Can't
Well,
state that even.
we can't?
No. Must
My
say-
goodness.
Yep.
Okay, so then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to suggest that y'all go look at the comments of the candidates, specifically with regards to the groundwater authority and whether or not the candidates felt that good decisions were being made by the groundwater authority. It begins at about 1 minute or 1 hour and 25 minutes. And the differences with regards to the issue of water couldn't be more stark. So that I make myself clear, this is an opportunity for the valley, for the water district, and the resolution of some of the long-standing disagreements amongst the agencies in this valley. And what we have is a war between agencies. So hopefully there's some change coming. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Are there any other comments from the public? Excuse me.
Good evening, Board. Travis Reed, staff, potential future board. I just was here tonight to, one, listen, try to get caught back up on all the stuff that you guys are dealing, and to thank you guys for the opportunity to work with you again with the staff here. I really look forward to it.
All right, thank you, sir. Are there any other comments? Anyone online, Chris? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to item 7, current business committee reports. Item A, board vacancy. Board to consider applicants and to make the appointments to fill the board vacancy. General Manager Zadiba, did we receive any applications?
Yes, we received one application, and that was from former Director Ron Kosinski. That was the only one that was received. And he submitted his statement of qualifications and his application.
Okay. Mr. Kaczynski, would you like to address the board?
Ron Kosinski. The first thing I want to do is say a couple words about Chuck Cordell. He was a friend of mine for almost 30 years. And it was quite a loss to Sharon and I. Even though it was sort of expected, it was sort of a gut punch to us. So number one is, Chuck, if you're listening, I miss you. You're always someone to talk to. And I appreciate the work that you did with this board and in this community. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, when I was notified or noticed that you'd have a vacancy, I was sort of thinking about it. Heck, I've just retired, you know, and I'm thinking, do I want to get back into this? So after some thought about it and a belief that I've kept track of what's going on, I understand what's going on, I can sort of step into the role and start running right away. And that's what I'm hoping to do. I miss the board of directors here and working with them and the staff especially. So you guys have seen my application, my qualifications. I was surprised I was the only one that put in for it. I thought maybe others might. So either they think you guys are doing a great job, or they don't want to put in because maybe they're worried it's not going to be tough. It's going to be a tough job to do. But so I look forward to the opportunity. I hope you consider me, because if you don't, I'm not sure what you're going to do. I guess you can just leave it vacant or have a special election. We have other choices as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm also here for any questions, if you have any, and I'd be willing to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Directors, Director Rator, any questions for Mr. Kaczynski?
I was kind of curious how a good boy from Indiana could root for Chicago. I just,
Well, you know, one time they were considering Gary was trying to get him to come to Gary Bears instead of Chicago Bears years ago. It didn't quite work. Now they're going to Arlington. But my family's from that whole area. We call it the region up there, Chicago. So that's why. So Bears, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Bulls, yeah.
okay.
Does that go against me in your decision?
It's outside our jurisdiction, Ron, and I believe the official
And Notre Dame.
phrasing is "da Bears."
Yeah, da
Right.
Bears.
Anything else, Stan?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
All right, Director Griffin.
I have none, thank you.
Vice President Boyd.
Nope, I'm excited that Ron did put his hand in. You know, given the challenges that we face in the next couple of years, it was going to be hard to ramp somebody up with no experience, and you had lots of experience with this, so I think you'll be a fine candidate, and I guess you'll be sitting next to me, so.
Oh no, it's okay.
If you're
Yeah,
nominated.
if I'm not. Thank you. Is it?
Can I make a motion
Well,
to recommend?
One quick question of our general manager and our legal representation. Is there anything about Mr. Kaczynski of which you are aware that would preclude him from serving on the board?
Just that he's a Notre Dame fan.
Okay, noted.
Not after that extensive grilling by the board. I think you've covered everything.
Okay, so to your first point, Mr. Kaczynski, if we don't select you, we would let the county know that we had not filled the
Yeah.
vacancy, and of course, then they would assign somebody
Yeah.
to fill the vacancy, which might be interesting to see.
I know, it
but
might be interesting, yeah.
Not that interesting, so.
Thank you.
You are knowledgeable about the water in the valley. You're one of the most knowledgeable people I know in that regard, and I've seen you working before, not just on this board of directors, but on the board of directors at the fairgrounds, where you're able to turn that organization around, and I compliment you for that. So I have no other comments.
I'd like to make a motion then that we approve Ron Kaczynski as a board member.
Second.
Okay, are there any comments from the public? Any discussion? Okay, please call for the vote.
President St. Amand,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Rotora,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Okay.
Yes.
Let the record show the vote was unanimous.
So at this point, we have to administer the oath of office, and that, once that's administered, newly appointed Director Kaczynski can be seated.
Would you rise, Mr. Kaczynski, please, and approach the podium?
Might be the last time you're doing this for a board.
So you need to raise your right hand.
Yes.
Repeat after me. For the office of the Director of Indian Wells Valley Water District,
For the office of Director of Indian Wells Valley Water District,
I, Ronald R. Kaczynski.
I'm sorry.
solemnly swear
I, Ronald R. Kaczynski, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear the faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that will bear the faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and I will and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
about which I'm about to enter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kaczynski, if you would please take your seat. He needs to sign. Yeah, there's one right here if you need it. Pass that down, the form, would you please? Okay, you ready to sign? Oh, okay, so I'll take my pen back. She's gonna have you sign it afterwards, she has to notarize it first. No, she's gonna have notarize it first. Right, yeah, okay, thank you. It's coming, it's next. All right, item 7B, consent calendar. Approval of the, go ahead, oh, there it is. All right. Do we have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
So move.
Have I got a second?
I'll second.
Is there any public comment? Board discussion? All right, very good. Then let us go ahead and have the vote.
President St. Amand,
Yes?
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Rotora,
Yes.
Director Kaczynski,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Yes.
Okay. So I assume we go on to C, Plant and Equipment Committee.
That'll be me.
Please, sir.
All right, so in the packet, you have a list of both surplus vehicles and surplus items, miscellaneous items. Every couple years, we go through what we're using, what we're not using, what we've replaced, and we put together this list. So basically, just need your approval to go ahead and start that surplus process. We'll list all these items on the webpage. We'll make notification in the swap sheet. We'll accept bids for a certain amount of time, and then once that time is closed, the highest bidder will be able to come pay and pick up their equipment. And what we don't sell, what we typically, it's probably because it's junk. they're not usable for someone, but, yeah, so.
So you've got 4 vehicles,
4 vehicles and then a whole bunch of SCADA and other surplus items.
including a 1999 Chevy. That's impressive. Okay.
You mentioned during the meeting that you'll be setting a threshold for some of these items so they don't go away for $5.
Yeah, for the vehicles, we'll set a reserve. We'll probably go on to KBB and see what a low bottom is for them and assign that so we're not giving them away.
Okay.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the list as given by staff.
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any comment from the public? All right, any discussion amongst the board members? All right, let's go ahead and vote then. You're listed under Cordell tonight.
Oh, am I? Okay. He spoke to me from the, yeah.
Okay, we're experiencing difficulties, technical
think it took your vote
difficulties.
yet, though.
So I'm just gonna do roll call.
Oh.
I'll just do roll call. President St. Amand,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Ritora,
Yes.
Director Kaczynski,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. All right, item 7D, Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Director Ritora.
Thank you. The last GA meeting was September 14th. The next GA meeting is October 12th. That's tomorrow for anybody who wants to be there. In terms of management activity, first of all, regarding the imported water project, the purchase of the 750 acre feet of Table A entitlement is going slower than anticipated. The due diligence period is being extended. It's not clear at this point exactly how long it's being extended. The down payment is likewise being postponed. One issue is that the letter of intent was sent to an individual who does not yet hold title to the water rights. Our counsel, Jim Worth, over there, is trying to follow up and get clarification on some of the details. To put things into perspective, we do not know, several things. First of all, does the seller own the water rights? And at this point in time, we don't think he does.
Dan, I'm not sure you should be going into all of this. Is possibly still in negotiation stage. I don't think you should be talking in this much detail about the imported water yet. Some of the stuff isn't final.
Exactly. That was the point I was actually trying to make, is there is more uncertainty than there is actual.
And the reason I caution, I know it's discussed in open session as well, but there's also closed session matters where the discussion, and I don't want to cross that line.
Okay. Let's see, the pipeline alignment study, which is of course paid for by the state grant of $7.6 million, is continuing. The Water District has had discussions with the GA's contractor, Provost and Pritchard, regarding the study, and the Water District is starting to work with the GA regarding our requirements. There are 2 agenda items on tomorrow's GA agenda regarding AVAC. Anyone wanting to give me an input on either one of those items is encouraged to do so. One of the items has to do with contracting to AVAC regarding data sharing, and the other one has to do with a letter of intent to AVAC regarding a workshop on the imported water collaboration. Moving on to the recycled water project, the Original recycled water project study is essentially complete. The report is due out the end of this year. Krieger and Stewart have been following this for the Water District. I believe that the Water District joined Stetson in a meeting with the State Water Resources Control Board to get input on how do we proceed, although I haven't heard anything about exactly how we are going to proceed. I hope to learn something tomorrow at the board meeting. Stetson has been authorized to prepare a water recycling Title 16 feasibility study for the Bureau of Reclamation's grant, and I believe Krieger and Stewart is following that as well for the Water District. The Rose Valley subflow monitoring effort funded by the Navy COSO royalty funding is scheduled to start in the fall or winter of this year. Next year, according to the liaison officer at the GA meeting, next year's Navy Coastal Royalty Program will apparently not have any funding for GA efforts. And it was the first that I'd heard anything about the program this year. Maybe at the end of my little verbiage here, the staff can enlighten us as to what actually has gone on regarding our participation in the GA nomination process. Capital Core Group, our lobbyist, indicated that they expect DWR to release or start grant proceedings on $202 million available for phase 2 Sigma implementation funding. That was at the last meeting, and it turns out in the meantime, since then, I have gotten an email from DWR, indeed indicating that phase 2 implementation funding has started. They're accepting applications at this point in time, and it is for $202 million. In terms of financial activity, at the meeting, the GA general manager expected the board to be able to take action on imported water loan at this coming meeting tomorrow. However, it's not on the agenda, so I suspect it's been delayed for 30 or 60 days. The long-awaited new financial system for the GA has yet to be implemented. I'm hoping to get some news and status on that as well tomorrow. In terms of project activities and concerns, I have only one major concern, and that's been ongoing for God knows how long. The schedule for the release of the Water Year 2022 annual report was discussed at the last GA meeting, and actually the schedule looked quite good, fine. It allowed for review, update, etc. However, unfortunately, Stetson admitted they continue to have problems in measuring the change to groundwater and storage. That's one of the 6 primary sustainability criteria, and I'm not sure why we're so far behind as we are. I think we've been very patient now for more than 3 years to get this problem resolved, and it's soon going to be time for us to be more proactive in trying to get something done in this area. And I am more than happy to take any questions or comments from whoever.
Okay, thank you. Does any board member have a question for, please?
I have a couple, Stan. Stan, I received a flyer in my mailbox at a couple of my properties, and this week I attended an event and I spoke with several realtors and also with the person that assists in recruiting people for the Navy for the hospital. They received the flyer also. I did not notice at last month's meeting or the month before that the GA approved or voted on sending that flyer out. Do you know how that flyer got created?
Well, it turns out that not last month, but the month before last, that flyer was in the package. However, it was appended at the end of the package, and there was no discussion at the board meeting as to why it was there or what was going to be done with it, although it did have a mark on it, so I guess we should have assumed that it would be sent out. All I can do is assume that that is the GA's idea of outreach, which I didn't particularly think was all that great.
I did not either. So I was curious if it did get approved by the
It
board.
it
or if
was,
did
it
not.
was,
So it did.
no, actually, it was thrown into the back of the package, but there was no agenda item that addressed it as far as I can remember. I obviously would have brought it to the board's attention that the board's been criticized for lack of outreach, communications, et cetera. And so they've hired somebody to try to, improve the outreach and communications. Now, that's not the way I would go about doing it. As a matter of fact, it really, I think is backwards. They're spending money to convince people that they're transparent and accountable when what they really need to do is demonstrate that they are transparent and accountable and stop spending money on postcards would be my input to the GA. And had I realized what they were going to do with it, I would have made that input.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Director Kaczynski.
Yes, I do have a question. This is something I've asked a number of times, both at these board meetings here and even at the city and even to some of the candidates. Stan, has anybody gotten with, at your meetings, basically what I'm looking for, if they want to get community participation and understanding as well as, communications, and they want to get outreach, has anybody taken this pipeline, the bullet pipeline as I call it, and this whole project from start to finish to getting the water and put down the bottom line of what it's going to cost the ratepayers? Because obviously it'll be the ratepayers paying what's ever going on. In other words, is there something that says, okay, if we do this and we borrow the money forward or we borrow half the money, I'm not sure there's a range, as well as the cost of the water, the operations, the electricity, everything, and come to the public and say, in order to get you support, you need to understand you're going to spend X amount of dollars per month just for this. I can tell you this, that I've done some qualitative estimates, and it's about $600 a month. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's what I'm talking about. I have people coming to me and saying, what is this going to cost us if they put this pipeline? Is there anybody that's done that or even contemplating doing it and maybe using part of that $7.6 million to do something like that?
It's possible that some of that $7.6 million will be used for that. I don't know for sure. I have not seen an actual list of tasks, nor have I seen a schedule for that. My personal opinion is that what is happening is there's been as much stuff postponed and delayed for the GSP update that is going to come out in 2025, that there's a lot of things that aren't being done now. I have seen no updates regarding a real plan to put the whole thing together in terms of being able to give a better number for the number of dollars it's going to cost each individual. And of course, the other issue is who's going to pay it.
Right.
At this point, we don't know the total number of dollars that it's going to take, and we don't know where the money's coming from. I think there are still people thinking that magically McCarthy or the Navy or somebody might throw a lot of money at us. Who knows? I mean, that potentially could happen. I don't think it's something that we should count on before committing to the project. I think we should know what we're doing before we commit to the project and go on from there. And of course, that's one of the reasons why I've not been all that optimistic with regard to this 750 acre feet of Table A water procurement, because we still don't know how we're going to get it here, and it's the total cost we really need to be concerned with. I couldn't agree with you more.
Not just the building of it, but the operations and.
Oh, yeah, the O&M cost as well, absolutely.
But it goes to what Director Boyd said 2 meetings ago, I believe, that he wanted to look at the future of the water district what kind of things are coming forward that are going to affect us and our ratepayers. And I believe that was one on your list, was it not? Is this, if the GA is not going to do it, then can we work together, it could be you and and put it, and get all the information we can and put together something that's going to say, here's the bottom line of what it's going to cost the ratepayers on a monthly basis. And then let the GA come back and say, oh, this is wrong, or that's wrong. But at least we start somewhere. Because there's a lot of people out there that have been talking to me and said, okay, they put this pipeline, how much did it cost me? An extra $50 a month, $100 a month, $200 a month. It could be as high as $600 a month over your present water bill. And in my opinion, that will pretty much destroy this community. So I'm willing to work with you, Director Boyd, if you want to, unless someone in the GA is going to get that assignment to do it. But I don't know that you can make that happen, Sam, but if you can, it'd be appreciated.
We don't have, I've been trying to get a plan with a schedule and a budget for the GSP update. And I've been doing that now for months and months and months. I don't know, there is going to be an election, and maybe the attitudes will change, and maybe we will get an actual project plan. We'll see. We need to all work on that. Obviously, it's a critical issue.
Is it possibility, since they're spending that replenishment fee money for just about anything, is it possible to say, hey, let's spend some of this to get another consultant or get someone who can put together this package? And I'm not talking about the consultant they have now that just says the feasibility running the pipeline. That's one thing, and the cost of that, the whole package. So it's just a thought. I'm not sure you'll get any traction with it with them, but you always can try.
Well, we need to keep trying. I agree. Couldn't agree more.
I haven't read their statement of work for this project. They didn't run it by us, as I recall. You said Krieger and Stewart is working with Pritchard on this, so we're getting some water district insight?
Peripherally, yes, but more associated with our interface with them in terms of the alignment study is my understanding.
Okay. But money was for planning for the pipeline, is that correct?
I think it's like $449,000 it's going to Pritchard and Provost and Pritchard for doing the alignment study as opposed to the whole plan for doing the pipeline. So I mean, there's no reason to believe that having that would not include a better definition description of the total process. And so I think there's reason to believe that it would include it, but that $440-some million, $1,000 is just for the alignment and locations for pumps and interconnects and all of that kind of thing.
Well, that might be a good starting point, though, at least if they've identified all the components necessary to have this. And maybe not priced out, but that could be something that could be done later.
And I do not have a schedule for that either.
Okay. Thank you.
There probably is one. I can't believe that any engineering firm is bidding $400 and X number of dollars to do a project and not knowing when he's going to start and when he's going to end, but it hasn't been shown to the board.
Well, given the love affair for schedules in this program, I'm not too sure that we should expect one.
Yeah, well, no, I think we should expect one. I really do.
Director President, can I make one more comment?
Yes.
Thank you. The other thing that worries me too is this water purchase. It's like putting the cart before the horse. I have no idea what this pipeline is going to cost us, how it's going to be operated, who's going to pay for it, whether we're going to pass all the legal requirements and CEQA requirements for getting it through the desert, and we're buying water. And to me, that just seems like that is a signal, call it if you want to, some kind of social signal that, hey, look, we're making progress, we're buying water, but we have no way to get it here. Yeah. That's just my opinion, that you're buying water before you have a way to get it here.
Well, it turns out that one of the corrective actions that came out of the DWR review of our GSP is that the imported water project was not definitive enough to be able to tell whether or not it would actually a viable project. So, and of course, and one of the issues that was brought up is, well, are you really going to be able to buy it? Well, You know, so obviously, right away, the mentality is, well, we better go buy some water, because otherwise, when the next, and DWR made, I believe, a point of saying that in our last annual report, we hadn't made any progress toward that. So, I mean, it's not illogical that they would. You know, if their focus was really to import water, they're probably doing what is going to make DWR happy. Not that I'm in favor of it or I voted for any of it, but that, I mean, I can see where their thinking and logic would be going there.
I
Dr.
could,
Griffin, any questions? No, I'm good.
I could comment?
Mhm.
Could I comment?
Yes, of course.
Just to address Dr. Kaczynski's comment. It's kind of a chicken or egg argument. And, you know, the comment's been made that, you know, you kind of have to have the water before you get the pipeline, because nobody's going to invest in a pipeline that you don't have any asset to put into it. With regard to the water purchase, if you have the water, it's considered an asset. If you don't have the infrastructure, you can always sell that asset. So I think that's the logic behind pursuing the water before building the pipeline.
Okay. So any engineering company or any organization that's going to pursue a project of this sort has an obligation to undergo an initial planning session whereby they identify the major tasks and then provide rough order of magnitude estimates for the cost and the time it's going to take to be done. I haven't seen that yet, and that really should be accomplished so that the board of the Groundwater Authority can decide whether it is feasibly, financially possible for this valley to create and sustain such a system. And I think that's what we're liking to see from the GA. I don't require a detailed plan down to what type of pipe they're using, but they should be able to say it's going to be an estimated 50 to 60 miles. It's going to take this long to get through the environmental review. The planning is going to take this long. The construction is going to take this long, and they really need to provide that so people can make a reasonable decision.
Understood. We can raise that with the GA during our next call. It seems to me that we should raise the issue with the GA before we start doing our own homework. Let them have the first shot at it instead of, you know, giving them something. We should at least, you know, ask them first. I believe. That's all I have.
Director Rotorua, can you ask them to provide or produce such a thing or create an order of magnitude study of the cost and time it's going to take at this upcoming?
Oh, I'm always willing to try to put something on the agenda. The question is whether or not we're going to be allowed to put something on the agenda. We've not been real successful to date. Okay. Who knows? Who knows? A month from now, attitudes might change, and we might actually be able to do that.
Okay, we'll give it a shot anyhow. And if that doesn't work, you can't get it on the agenda, then we at least internally need to come up with an order of magnitude estimate for the project.
Director Rotorua is certainly capable of saying whatever he wants, but I believe that to try to get it on the agenda, we might have a little bit more success if we were to raise it at the GA level and talk to Stetson about that first. And then if we don't have good answers, then Stan could raise that in November, but leave it up to Stan.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other board questions? All right, questions or comments from the public?
Judy Decker. Yes, I have several comments regarding both Mr. Kaczynski and Stan's comments. Regarding the flyer postcard, I've heard it was both. We did not receive one. I would like to point out that one of the committees the GA formed was the Policy Advisory Committee that has one member of the public present at their meetings, who is my husband, Don. The Policy Advisory Committee, over the last 6 months or so, has brought up the issue of a lack of communication. And after the GSP was approved with some caveats by DWR, and one of them was communication. Their statement, I believe, was that we had a communication plan for the creation of the GSP, and now that it was approved, we needed a communication plan for the implementation process. And the PAC has been working on that, but under discussion, and it's come along slowly, kind of in stages. We did have a strong discussion on the lack of communication by the Groundwater Authority. And at one of those meetings, the general manager, Carol, I never get her two last names right, Kiefer Thomas, Kiefer Thomas, was there remotely, and she stated that staff, which is herself and the clerk of the board, April Kekwin, were working on communication things. They apparently created this document and sent it out without it being discussed by either the PAC or the board, as you said, Stan. And that's unfortunate because things like that always should have some sort of review. That being said, I'll move on to the next thing I wanted to comment on. By the way, at the last PAC meeting in September, the committee approved a new communications plan with one no vote, which was mine. Regarding the pipeline and imported water, my understanding is when DWR granted this GA board the $7.6 million, it was going to include, in part, things like environmental reviews and CEQA documents and right-of-way issues. It's not just planning to build a pipeline from Bowman Road and Highway 14 to California City. It includes a lot more than that, and that you kind of emphasized that when you said how much Provost and Pritchard was getting for this initial stage. And if you're going to talk to the GA, I would urge you, as the Policy Advisory Committee has urged, that we have some workshops where we can have presentations and informal discussions without a vote, so that the people do know what's going on and you yourselves know what's going on. And finally, I'd like to emphasize what Don said. The water game is a serious, expensive, high-stakes game in this state. We have way too many people for the amount of the natural resource, whether it rains or not. And obviously, it's in its not raining phase. And supposedly it's going to be like that this next coming year. The 750 acre feet that the GA is negotiating does not include one single drop. No, yes, you did correct. It includes a few acre feet of water. It is buying the right to that water. And the more right that can be purchased, the better off this valley will be, because it can always buy, sell, and trade it. And you need to remember that when you discuss it. And if I can answer any questions for you regarding the PAC, I will. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Judy, do you want to see this?
He's got the flyer if you'd like.
This is the flyer that went out.
May I make two clarifying
Yes.
comments? First, Judy's correct with respect to the 7.6, and the grant funding will be primarily used for design, environmental compliance, right-of-way acquisition, and other permitting in coordination with partnering agencies. So, and the Provost Pritchard, that's just, I believe, for the alignment study. The other thing is I don't know what people are what they're thinking when you're saying that the GA isn't buying a drop of water, they're buying a right. I don't want to play semantics, but what they're buying is what they're trying to buy is the right to receive whatever entitlement is part of that 750 acre feet that they're buying. In a year when the State Water Project is delivering 100% of the water, they would receive 750 acre feet. And if it was 50%, it's half of that. So whether they're buying the right, the entitlement, they are in fact buying the right to receive water. So that's all. I mean.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Sinnott.
That's impressive picture on the postcard. I wasn't going to tell you this publicly, but I will. Yesterday, actually it was the day before, we were at Classic Burger out in Inyokern. And for those of you who have lived here for a long time, you will maybe remember that Joe Grosshart had a great big water hauling truck. Don said he thought it held about 600 gallons of water. It went by on Broadway. Don't know if they'd gotten water from the CSD or what. More and more people who are private domestic well owners, small co-ops, or even larger small mutuals are having to haul water. You need to know that and remember it. It's a serious problem. It isn't all because of the drop in water table. It is because, in part, these systems were kind of put in on the cheap 50 years ago, and now they're having problems with it. And because mutuals have to abide by the state rules now, it's a lot more expensive for those people. And by the way, last week, both Stetson and Kern County Water Agency were out here measuring water wells, domestic water wells. And one of the reasons it's been so slow is that Kern County Water Agency has said that they could not come out and measure those wells during COVID. So that's why there's this huge gap. I can't figure out why they couldn't come out and measure a well, but they couldn't. So there you have it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sinnott.
Okay, I wanted to talk about the two things that have been brought up here. One is the 750 acre feet. I think it's really important to point out, as Mr. Worth did, that this is an entitlement and it's based on what they call a reliability factor. The reliability factor means you may get some water, you may not. And this year, because of the drought, the reliability factor is 5%. So if you buy 750 acres, you're really only going to get 5% of that. And the other thing is that, and I want to emphasize this, by importing water from the State Water Project, we're effectively making the state's really screwed up water problems our own water problems. We have a geographic issue where the water comes from. At the candidates forum, one of the candidates brought up his experience with pipelines and water and wells, and mentioned that the COSO geothermal haystack pipeline, which is 9 miles, cost $18 million to build, the pipe and the pumps, and approximately $2 million a year in maintenance. That's a 9-mile pipeline. He also mentioned, or the manager mentioned, that he could lay out cost based on the kind of projects you're asking about. So if there's anybody you want to tap into for knowledge and the cost estimate of this nature of project, it would be Mr. Ellis at the COSO geothermal plant. On the 750 acres again, Judy mentioned that can be buy, sell, or trade. It's an asset. I'm not so concerned about the fact that they're negotiating this deal. I'm more concerned about it because they're doing it in a drought at the top of the market, if you will. I mean, it's like the worst time ever to be buying water in a relatively infancy stage water market. It's really new, so it's got a lot of problems. The water market, let's call it the futures market, and so this is probably the highest price paid for that quantity of entitlement ever. I don't know if there's anything higher. So the whole idea of cost and viability, feasibility have still not been ironed out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Chris, do we have anybody on the telephone that would like to speak? No. All right, very good. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Mike Neal. I'll touch on the easiest topic first, and that is as an agenda item that I do read the GA agendas. I don't generally go because I can't stand the upset I usually encounter afterwards when I go to them. But I haven't seen anything on the agenda in the GA for a while about conservation efforts. Now, this generally is something that people are resistant to, especially when you start talking about, eliminating grass and foliage from their properties. But when we're talking about this kind of money to potentially get water to the valley, at thousands of dollars per acre foot, conservation ends up being a real good way to save a chunk of change. Every estimating calculation that I've made, I've approached it a few different ways about, just the overall indoor water usage for water being, pumped out of the district's wells to supply that is somewhere under 4,000 acre feet. Now, I believe we're being allocated like 6,000 and, looking at having to shell out all this replenishment fee for 2,500 acre feet, which would, basically those two things would indicate that the plant watering grass, trees, shrubs, all that stuff around town is basically equal to about 2,000 plus acre feet. Now, you've been to certain areas of Las Vegas or other western towns, you see rock, you see drought tolerant plants of every conceivable kind, and you don't see broadleaf trees, or the other things that use a lot of water. So that is a continuing topic, a serious topic with serious efforts to find ways for grants, cheap loans, anything, and everything basically to chase the conservation dream and get to, you drive around town, you're still gonna see a lot of grass lawns. And I could attest, when I had a lot more grass in my property, I had to crank up the sprinkler times and stuff. My water usage went way up, and I've got a lot less grass than I had previous years, and I still touched into tier 3 this last water bill. I've just got a relatively small patch of grass in the backyard, which is not doing that well, and hope to just get rid of it. But that's I think is a very important topic to press the GA to go after a lot more aggressively. Now, as far as the pipeline and the effect on the valley, if the GA, which I'm going to predict they are not going to want to put any estimates out for the public's knowledge as to what this whole pipeline system could potentially cost. And even if Mr. Kaczynski's estimates that he quoted earlier are, if he's 2 times over what reality is, and reality ends up being an extra $4,000 per year to the average household of cost, I won't elaborate, but I think you can all quickly see the exponential effect of that kind of thing. People are going to be leaving town because people are leaving town, and other people are, it's going to affect the economy. Pretty soon the base, they won't have any complaints because there won't be anybody here to hire. They'll all be gone. I mean, that is not something that people can handle, period. That's all it is. And if that's what it's going to be, and that's not being put out by either the GA or by default by the water district, somebody is seriously not holding up to their responsibility. This is, I'll use the word, a death knell to the economy of the Indian Wells Valley. If they likewise put Searles Valley out of business because they can't afford those kind of costs being put on their business, that just doubles the blow. And that's not a pretty picture, and that's going to be the kind of thing that, you're talking about disasters of the past that wiped out towns and forced people to just have to leave stuff, put what they could in their vehicle, and flee the area and go where they could and live as paupers after that. Now that's not out of the realm of reality if that kind of cost is thrown on people's backs in this valley in the future. And it's clear that they have not done everything conceivable to avoid having to do that. There are areas of water that need to be looked at, possible sources of added supply that need to be looked at, and they're getting way ahead of the horse, and now they're buying entitlements, and everybody says, well, it's an asset. Well, it's not an asset if you look at the State Water Resources Board numbers for the last 20 years, which I did, and find that the average allocation is 40%. So they bought 750 acre feet, and probably over time, the best they're going to get is 40% of that. So if they've got to buy an additional 60% over what they think they need, that's a lot of money. But the pipeline system is the killer. That's the one that's going to stick the knife in the heart of the economy of this valley and make it disappear.
Okay, thank you.
Since he brought up conservation, I'll give you the commercial. The Eastern Kern County Resource Conservation District had an excellent talk on using not just drought-tolerant plants, but desert plants native to the Mojave Desert. We are selling them the last Saturday in October at the fairgrounds. You have to order them ahead of time, and tomorrow is the deadline, and you can find the order form on the Eastern Kern County Resource Conservation District website. I encourage you all to go and look and buy. The other thing I have to say is, and since I'm not on the board, I can't be told I can't say this by certain people who are turning gray. I'll remind everyone that I'm not defending it or not defending it, but I will remind you that when the replenishment fee was voted into existence by the Groundwater Authority, the intent was for Searles Valley Minerals and the large agricultural industry that is here to pay a replenishment fee. If they were paying, there would be a lot more money in the replenishment fee pot than just the money that is paid by the Indian Wells Valley Water District customers.
Okay, are there any additional comments from the public? No? Stan, anything you would like to add?
I'd just like to go back to the Navy Coastal Royalty Program. Did we participate in the project's selection or creation or whatever?
Yes, I think it's been 2 years now that working with Stetson and staff, a prioritized list of projects was developed for consideration for the Navy. But as they've said all along, the Navy coastal funds are at the discretion of the Navy. So if the Navy has energy or some sort of project that takes priority, then the Groundwater Authority projects become secondary. So apparently that's what's happened this year, that they don't deem the projects that are on that list to be as important as whatever project they have in mind for those funds.
So the projects basically go back 3 years, and we're still using the projects that we nominated?
I don't think it's 2 years, Director Torre. I think that was put together the year before last. So it still should be a relatively current list. It hasn't been revised since then.
Okay. We just need to keep in mind, because there's like $8 or $10 million there on the table that we need to every year consider and think about, because it's good money. And quite frankly, I think the Navy is authorized to allow Water District to spend the money as much as anybody else, including the GA. If we can come up with, a good project, I think that the Navy would look positively, at anything that we suggested, if it made sense. I mean, obviously, to them, because it's got to help the Navy. I mean, that's the whole point. Is it's got to be a project that helps the Navy with their water problem.
It's my understanding that the preference is that the projects come from the Groundwater Authority. And I believe the total is closer to 15 million a year, 12 to 15 million a year.
I think it gets split between the local Navy and the big Navy, and so we get like half of that, 7.5, if your number. I said 8 to 10, and I think it's gone up.
Yes.
So it's good money, and we should be constantly, aware of the fact that there's no reason why we can't work with the Navy. We really have the same objectives of the Navy of being sustainable. So I would just encourage us to make sure we continue to keep, pushing on that.
Okay, thank you. If there are no objections, then we'll move to item 7E, comprehensive adjudication.
Thank you.
Mr. Work. You're welcome.
Yes, as I've advised the board the last couple months, there hasn't been a whole lot of change with respect to the adjudication. You may recall that the last time we were before the court was on May 20th at the case management conference. At that time, the judge pretty much stayed discovery and other matters on the adjudication-related cases until the December 2nd case management conference, which is coming up. So I'll have more to report on the adjudication after the December 2nd CMC. Doug Everett's firm, they continue to try to wrap up the service on that last group of parcels, the ones that had issues receiving the original mailer. That has not been stopped. And then the adjudication, the last thing I'll say, it's all I have on the adjudication. The public meeting for the DWR facilitation was held on October 4th that's been complete. That, in essence, is the end of what was considered task 2 on the scope of work with Stantec. And so now I believe where they are is I believe Stantec will be reaching out to the planning committee and having discussions about what might be the next task, if anything. For example, one example, I don't want to go too far into, but one example that I heard was maybe it's time for Stantec to give a presentation to the GA board regarding the results of the stakeholder assessment. But we'll see how that goes. So that's all I have on the adjudication.
All right, thank you. Do any of the directors have questions for Mr. Worth? All right, any questions from the public? All right, very good. Then let's go on to item 7F, General Manager and Staff Update.
Okay, the first item is the safety record. As of today, employees of the Water District have worked 538 days since the last recordable injury. In terms of production, metered production at the wells for the month of September, 190,147,300 gallons. That's 583.5 acre feet. As I say every month, the number that we report to the State Water Resources Control Board is actually that's metered water through the distribution system or consumption. And that includes non-revenue water, which is water that's lost to leaks, flushing activities, blow-offs, etc. That number for the month of September, 232,024,000, that's 712.1 acre feet. Since June, there's been a requirement from the state board to submit a preliminary report with consumption, population, and residential gallons per capita per day only by the 3rd business day of the month. That preliminary report was submitted on October 3rd. The full report is still required by the 28th of the month, and our full report was submitted on October 6th. Conservation results for September show consumption was down 22.3% compared to September of 2013, which was the original baseline year that was established by the Water Board for comparison. The 20% conservation target that was established by the District Board voluntarily that took effect in June of 2016 through September, the cumulative result is 23.4%, and that's on the strength of 4 consecutive months exceeding 30% recently, and obviously that ended with the month of September. In response to Governor Newsom's request for a voluntary 15% reduction to address the current drought conditions, the State Board is also comparing our current water consumption to that same month in 2020. Comparing September 2022 to September 2020, we've seen a 1.3% reduction in consumption. Comparing September conservation results to recent years, consumption in 2021 was 24.2% lower than the 2013 baseline year. 2020 was 21% lower. 2019, 16.1% lower. And 2018, 10.7% lower. Residential gallons per capita per day, which is also part of our reporting to the State Board, 183.2, and that again includes both indoor and outdoor usage. Any questions on that portion? There was one new connection, just one new connection during the month, which contributed $5,086 in capital facility fees. Since the beginning of this fiscal year, it started July 1st, there have just been 4 new connections, and those have contributed $16,962 in capital facility fees. In terms of public outreach, I did attend the community collaborative meeting at City Hall on October 4th. I announced the public workshop for the DWR facilitation process would be held that evening, during which results from the stakeholder assessment interviews as well as responses from the online survey would be shared. I also mentioned the board is seeking to fill the vacancy resulting from the passing of Director Cordell, and also that the district is still seeking candidates for the Junior Associate Board Member Pilot Program. And regarding that Junior Associate Board Member Pilot Program, Sierra Sands Unified School District, Sarah Coastal Community College, and the Chamber of Commerce are all assisting with publicizing the program. In fact, I sent a note from Dr. Hancock at Sarah Coastal. These pushed out another effort to publicize the program. We still have just received one application from a Burroughs student. Applications are due Wednesday, November 9th.
9th?
November 9th, yeah. And I mentioned that one application from the Burroughs student. She's really not eligible because she indicated in her application that she can't attend evening meetings. We continue to work with Providence Strategic Consulting to promote the WaterSmart app. As of this morning, there were 1,545 active accounts, which accounts for 11.9% of our customers. This is up slightly from last month when I reported 11.8%. There were 1,709 customer alerts that were issued during the month of September. And for the past 12 months, there have been 12,240 alerts to customers. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. All right. Booster stations and tank projects.
Yeah, I'm filling in for Nate today. Right now at the booster station, the building's pretty much coming up. Last week, we poured the footing for the building. We've also got the discharge and the supply lines pressure tests, so they're good to go. Yesterday, they backfilled the floor of the building. And today they laid a visqueen layer and with sand on top of it. So Monday they plan on pouring the floor of the building. Also, the masonry contractor will be on site tomorrow. They'll be beginning the block wall construction. And moving on to the tanks. That's the C-zone tank you're looking at there. They began construction this week. They began welding the floors of the tank. And over at Gateway, they began sandblasting the tank this week, and they'll start the paint as well. Any questions?
Okay, no? No questions. All right, financial status.
I don't have any pictures for this, sorry. But through September of 2022, we have received revenues of $4.66 million, which is about $200,000 below budget. On the expenditure side, we have expenditures of $4.4 million, which is also $168,000 below budget. So currently our net is a positive $223,000, which is just about right at where we anticipated, about $30,000 below budget. Capital expenditures to date of 1.3 million, and of that 900,000 is funded through the COP funds, and debt service principal of 278,000.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Solar production.
So phase one, solar, we have September actual savings of 50,000, which is above the guarantee of about 46,000. Phase two, which is the well 35 site, had a savings of $2,123, which is above the guaranteed savings of 1,906. So overall, both sites generating more than the guarantee.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you. Conservation.
For calendar year of 2022, we have received 82 water waste reports. We have made 82 contacts, issued 5 warnings, and 0 penalties.
Okay. Questions? Arsenic treatment facilities.
For the month of September, arsenic plant 2 treated 16,955,000 gallons. As the board will remember, we chose Pure Flow's stainless steel underdrain system to replace the current PVC underdrain system. And they are scheduled to be on site November 7th. So in preparation for that, the water supply department is currently getting ready to remove the media that is in the vessels now, so that they can get in there, remove the under drain system, and put in their stainless steel under drain system.
Okay, thank you. Questions? All right, operations.
For the month of September, maintenance did 18 repairs and 28 replacements, 9 valves returned for a year-to-date total of 690, and NODES ran 9 times, bringing our grand total to 8.594 million gallons.
Okay. I don't see any questions. Then let's move to item 8, board comments and future agenda items. Director Rotora.
I would like to congratulate Director Kaczynski for joining this auspicious group. I look forward to working with him in the future. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Griffin.
And I'd like to follow up with the same, pretty much exact words. Welcome. I think your hair is going to get grayer for the next year. Thanks for joining us.
All right, Vice President Boyd.
I don't want to like overload him with compassion, but welcome aboard. And also to Travis, congrats on your competition. Look forward to working with you.
All right, very good. Director Kaczynski.
Well, thank you for the support. I look forward to continue serving on this board. And yeah, I don't think my hair will get any grayer. I think it's unless you put me on the GA, which ain't gonna happen. He stands in such a good job, but just perfect. So I. Well, yeah. And yeah, it was brown when he started, I thought, yeah. But I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I look forward to working with you. I think this board has grown quite a bit in the last 4 or 5 years in how they handle things and what they're doing. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So I'd like to welcome Travis, and I'd like to welcome Ron. Look forward to working with both of you. And with that, I'm going to call.
Can I ask a question before I close?
Better than anyone I know.
Oh, boy. In the last
Judy Decker.
few weeks, Judy Decker, in the last few weeks, there have been a couple of horrific fires. One last week just at Sidnor and Mahan, and one a few weeks before that at Calvert in Felspar, out in the county. They both used every fire truck that we have. And I wondered if you had any accounting of how much water is used in those fires. Because both fires used water district water.
The fire department does not give us any accounting of the water that they use for the.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, I will call the open session closed at 7:22 p.m. I'd like to open the closed session at 7:32 p.m. Thank you.
Sorry, almost got you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're calling the closed session closed at 8:47 PM, and we're opening the open session at 8:52 PM. Jim?
The board met with staff and legal counsel on the items under closed session. No action was taken that requires disclosure under the Brown Act. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. Closing the open session at 8:52 PM. Thank you.
Thanks for coming back in, Chris.